Howdy y'all and welcome. Hope everybody's doing well out there so far. As you can see, we got some pretty significant severe weather going on today as a rare high risk has been issued over here in central Oklahoma into southern Kansas with a moderate risk and enhanced risk that surround that. Now keep in mind, even if you're under the low end threats for severe weather, you can still get in on some pretty significant severe weather. So let's go ahead and get into it here. So pull up the wording by the Storm Prediction Center within that high risk area. Keep in mind, over 2 million people are under the gun for severe weather within the high risk area. So we take a look at the wording. They're talking about a regional outbreak of severe weather with multiple intense EF3 plus tornadoes, which are going to be long tracked, as well as some extreme hail on top of that as well. As we take a look at the tornadic risks, we can see that there is a 30% hatched on top of a 15 and 10% hatched area, which extends all the way up into Kansas. Now keep in mind, regardless of whatever color zone you are under for tornadoes today, make sure you are hyper weather aware, have a way to get alerted, and know where to go when that tornado warning is issued. Y'all should know the drill by now. Y'all live in Tornado Alley. And even if you're under the low end threat for tornadoes, you can still get in on a pretty significant tornado. So make sure, again, you have a way to get alerted and know where to go when that tornado warning gets issued. And be hyper weather aware and don't be scared, but be prepared. And let everybody know that is not hyper weather aware or keen on the weather, because a lot of people have cut the cable and don't even watch the mainstream media. Make sure that they are aware that today is going to be a pretty significant day for some severe weather, including some tornadoes as well. As we take a look at the high wind threat, we can see that there is a pretty significant threat for high winds, as a 45% hatched area has been issued down here in southeastern Kansas and northeastern Oklahoma, with a regular 30% surrounding that. Take a look at the large hail threat. We can see that there's a 45% hatched area centered over that high risk area over here in Kansas and Oklahoma, with the 30% hatch that surrounds that as well. So it's looking like hail and tornadoes is going to be the primary threats, with some high winds on top of that as well. So make sure you put up anything you don't want damage from hail or blowing around from high winds, and make sure, keep repeating myself, but I can't stress this enough, make sure you're hyper weather aware and know where to go when that tornado warning gets issued today, as it's looking like some strong, violent tornadoes are going to be possible. As we take a look at Tuesday's severe weather threats, we can see that there's a slight risk that has been issued over here in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, Arkansas, and West Virginia. All hazards are going to be possible again tomorrow, as there's a 5% chance for tornadoes within that slight risk zone and a 2% within the marginal risk zone. Take a look at the high wind threat. We see there's a 15% chance and a 5% in the red. And there is a pretty significant threat for large hail over here in Illinois, southern Indiana, and southwestern Ohio, as a 15% hatch rate has been issued. And now as we push off into hump day, we can see that there's a significant threat for severe weather, as an enhanced risk has been issued from Ohio down into Texas. Now we do not know what the main hazards are going to be just yet, so make sure you follow my X and Facebook pages, as I do daily weather updates on there, and I will let y'all know what the threats will be when the Storm Prediction Center issues those threats, so make sure again that you follow those pages. As we take a look at Thursday's severe threats, we can see that there's a 15% chance for severe weather from Georgia up into New Jersey and over here by Texas. Now again, just like on hump day, we do not know what the main threats are going to be, but make sure you follow my X and Facebook pages, as I will let y'all know what the threats are going to be when the Storm Prediction Center issues those threats. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the timing of when you could expect the worst of severe weather for the next 3 to 4 days. Now, there's also some winter weather going on out west, which we'll get into here in a little bit. We've got some winter storm warnings and advisories, which are set to expire through tomorrow, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the timing for the worst of severe weather right now. Take a look at the HRRR for this. Now, keep in mind that that date time is up here if you ever want to keep track. We can see that there's already some thunderstorm warnings already being issued for 1.25 inches hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. So it's looking like some severe weather that's already starting to get ramped up. As we push this forward, not much is really going to be happening through the early afternoon hours up until right around 5-6 o'clock. So it's looking like this could be a late evening into overnight event. It's going to turn more linear by right around 10 o'clock, and this is when our high wind threat's going to come into play, on top of some significant hail just east of Oklahoma City, near Tulsa by right around midnight, before getting out of the risk areas by the early morning hours and mainly turn into a flash flooding threat. As we take a look at that, we can see that there's a slight risk that has been issued. I would expect right around 1 to 3 inches on average within the slight risk zone for flooding. Be aware of this. See a flooded roadway, turn around, don't drown. Live in a flood prone area, please be aware of this. So again, it's looking like this is going to be a late evening into overnight event, so make sure that you have a way to get alerted and know where to go when that horn warning gets issued. As we take a look at the wind gusts of what we could expect, we can see at 10 o'clock when the severe weather starts to turn more linear, we could expect upwards of right around 30 to 40 mile-an-hour wind gusts, which some areas could see higher wind gusts than that. So definitely make sure you put up anything you don't want blowing around out there, and this could cause some power outages as well. And now as we take a look at this STP values, which is basically the significant tornadic parameters, which shows us where the most favorable ingredients for tornadic activity could be. Shows us that right around 11 o'clock near Norman, could be getting in on right around a 6 out of 10, almost a 7 out of 10 just south of Norman. See on the composite reflectivity that there is going to be some severe weather within the 6 and 7 out of 10 risk areas for tornadoes. So definitely, I can't stress this enough, guys. Looking like there could be some very strong, violent tornadoes tonight. And this is going to be a nocturnal event too. So definitely, again, hyper weather aware. And don't be scared, but be prepared. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Tuesday's timing for severe weather. Now that we know that today is going to be a late evening into overnight event. Now tomorrow, all hazards are going to be possible, including tornadoes, high winds, and some large hail as well. We'll lower this down to the 12Z HRRR run. And we got a mid-video update here. We got a tornado watch issued within that risk zone here on Monday, as the tornado watch has been issued through 7 o'clock Central Time tonight. Few strong tornadoes looking likely with 2.5 inch in diameter hail and 70 mile/hour wind gusts. So again, I know I already said this enough, but make sure you're hyper weather aware. Know where to go when that tornado warning gets issued, and don't be scared, but be prepared. As we push off into Tuesday, we can see we're going to be dealing with some intense flooding over here in Missouri and Arkansas through the early morning hours of Tuesday. That line pushes eastward. Could be dealing with some heavy showers and thunderstorms in the early afternoon hours in Indiana and Ohio. Non-severe, but could be dealing with some thunder boomers and some potential large hail through the early afternoon hours. But then severe is going to start to get ramped up through the early afternoon into the late evening time frame. Within that slight risk zone, could be dealing with some large hail and tornadoes and some high winds as well before it gets out of the risk area to the early morning hours of hump day. Now, as we take a look at the significant tornadic parameters, take a look at where the most favorable ingredients for tornadic activity could be at. As we push us back to right around 4 o'clock, we can see that here in southern Indiana near Louisville, right around a 2 to almost a 3 out of 10 on the tornadic scale. And as we push off into the late evening into overnight hours, we can see down here in western Kentucky and northwestern Tennessee, right around a 3 out of 10 is going to be possible for tornadoes. As we take a look at composite reflectivity, basically the simulated radar, we see that there is going to be some severe weather within that 3 out of 10 area. As we're going to wind this to right around 4 or 5 o'clock down here by Louisville, some severity is going to be possible as well. So definitely be on high alert tomorrow as a 5% chance for tornadoes has been issued within that slight risk zone on top of some pretty significant hail as well. So definitely be hyper weather aware again, just like here on Monday. Not going to be as significant, but significant tornadoes can happen on low wind days, so be aware of that. As it's looking like this is going to be a late afternoon into possibly a late evening into overnight event. So now that we know the hazards and the timing for the worst severe for the next couple of days, let's go ahead and take a look at hump day's timing. Now keep in mind, on hump day we do not know what the main hazards are going to be. Just please make sure that you are following my X and Facebook pages, as I will let y'all know when the Storm Protection Center issues those hazards. I'll be posting that on there. Now as we take a look at the flooding threat for Tuesday, I forgot to mention this, but there is going to be a marginal risk within that slight risk area over here in Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Kentucky and Tennessee. I would expect about 1 inch to possibly 2 inches. See a flooded roadway, turn around, don't drown. If you live in a flood prone area, please be aware of this. There's also a slight risk on hump day for flooding, as well as a slight risk on Thursday, and on Friday there is a flooding threat over here in the southeast. So definitely could be dealing with some major flooding amongst the eastern half of the country this week. But enough of that. Let's take a look at the timing of when you could expect the worst of severe weather on hump day. Take a look at this. We're going to have to take a look at the weather bell models. Now to take a look at the timing of when you could expect the worst severe weather for hump day and on Thursday, we're going to take a look at the Euro at the lightning flash density rate. This is where the most intense storms could fire up at, although we do not know what the main hazards are going to be. That's looking like here on hump day. As we push forward to that day, we can see this is going to be a potential late evening into possibly an overnight event. And as we take a look at the significant tornadic parameters according to the NAM 3 kilometer model, we can see right around 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, tornadic parameters are going to be off the charts over here by Missouri. And then that's going to push eastward by right around 8 o'clock. So it's looking like 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Possibly further than that. Now, 8 o'clock is as far as the NAM 3 kilometer will go. As we take a look at the Service Cape values, Service Cape shows us where the most significant energy for severe thunderstorms could be at. So we can see almost at 3,000 joules per kilogram by right around 4 o'clock. So definitely a lot of energy to work with for severe thunderstorms to fire up on Wednesday. So again, I would expect this to be a late afternoon into possibly evening into overnight event. Now to take a look at Thursday, we're going to take a look at the Euro at the lightning flash density rate. We already know Wednesday's going to be a late evening into overnight event. But for Thursday amongst the southeast, it's looking like this could be a early afternoon event again. And I got to show y'all Texas too, as Texas is going to be under that 15% chance as well. That's looking like over there by Texas on Thursday, this could be a late evening into overnight event. So the southeast could be dealing with an early afternoon into early evening event. And Texas could be dealing with a late evening into overnight event for y'all. So now that we know the time frames and who's going to see what kind of severe weather for the next 3 to 4 days, let's go ahead and look at the winter weather side of things, as the western half of the country is going to be getting in on some winter storms. As we can see, much of the western half of the country is going to be dealing with some sort of winter weather, as winter storm advisories and warnings have been issued. Most of these are going to set to expire today. Most of them are going to be set to expire by Tuesday morning. Crazy we're still dealing with winter weather this time of year, although it's already May, but that's good for the ski resorts. If anybody's taking vacations out there or even lives out there and has any ski resorts near you, be careful heading out to those, but go out there and enjoy those. So we can see the most intense snow bands going to be occurring through tonight into tomorrow morning before it starts to diminish by tomorrow evening. But basically, we're going to be dealing with some severe weather amongst the central half of the country and some winter weather in the western half of the country. It's a pretty intense storm system. As we take a look at the snow totals, we can see that within the winter storm advisory warning areas, I would expect right around 5 to 10 inches, locally higher amounts possible, of course, and right around 2 to 4 inches within the advisory areas. So again, get out and enjoy those ski resorts you have any near you, and be careful heading out to those as well, as this is looking like we could be dealing with a pretty crazy storm system, severe weather out east and some winter weather out in the western half of the country. So now that we know that we're going to be dealing with some snow and severe weather for the next few days, let's go and take a look at what the rest of the country is going to be dealing with for the next couple weeks. Now, as we take a look at the lower 48 here on the simulated radar on the Euro model, we can see, of course, we're going to be dealing with that winter weather out west, severe weather for the next few days due to this big old low pressure system. But then after we get past Thursday, it's going to start to dry out amongst much of the lower 48, doing some winter weather out by Colorado, and some soggy conditions up here in the northeast. Dealing with more soggy conditions amongst the upper Midwest and southwest part of the country. Still remaining dry amongst much of the country though. But then we're going to come back into this soggy pattern as we head into the middle parts of the month amongst the eastern half of the country, which is actually good for those crops if I have any farmers watching. And as we take a look at the next 6 to 10 days, as far as precipitation goes, according to the Climate Prediction Center, they are showing us that much of the country is going to be below average as far as precip goes, except for amongst the southwest and the northeastern part of the country, and over here by Alaska and Hawaii. And down here by Florida, y'all going to be above average as well. Next 8 to 14 days from May 13th and the 19th, the middle of the month, looks like much of the country is going to be near normal to above average, except for over here by Minnesota, up here in Washington, down into northern California. So definitely good for those crops out there. If you have any farmers watching, get out and plant those crops while you can, because it looks like some soggy conditions are going to be possible for the next 14 days, really. Although they're showing some below average precipitation, but get out and plant those crops now, y'all. Now, as we take a look at the temperatures of what we could be dealing with as we head towards the middle of the month, it's looking like today is going to be pretty warm for much of the country except for the northwest. Y'all are going to be getting in on some springtime snowstorms, unfortunately. Then once that severe weather starts to move out, we're going to be dealing with some chilly air amongst the central half of the country. But then we're going to warm back up again here on Tuesday. We're going to cool down and then warm up drastically. That enhanced risk has been issued from Ohio down into Texas. We're going to be dealing with some 90s down here in Texas as well. And then once that severe weather starts to move out by Friday, we're going to feel that chilly in the air. See, by the weekend, almost 30-degree temperatures amongst much of the country. But then we're going to warm up drastically again, cooling down, warming back up. We're in this back-forth pattern, but then as we head towards the middle of the month, we're going to stay warm amongst much of the country. See, we're going to be dealing with 90-degree temperatures out in California. We're going to go from almost 20-degree temperatures all the way up into the 90s by the middle of the month out west. That's a drastic change. As we take a look at the temperature anomalies, we can see that we're going to be above average out east and a little bit below average out west, but then it's going to change. As soon as that severe weather threats start to move out, we're going to be a little bit below average for much of the country. And then out west, you're going to be much above average as we head towards the middle of the month. And we're going to be a little bit below average amongst the eastern half of the country as we head towards the middle of the month as well. And as we take a look at the next 6 to 10 days, according to the Climate Prediction Center, as far as temperatures go, we can see much of the eastern half of the country is going to be below average, except for down by Florida and out west, where y'all going to be heading into this above average temperature trend. Alaska, you're going to be below average. Hawaii, you're going to be near normal. Next 8 to 14 days looks just about the same, so don't be worried about these below average temperatures, y'all. Chillier than normal for this time of year, but it's still going to be warm, so don't worry about these below average temperatures, and don't be afraid to plant anything. If you want to plant anything, having farmers, then go plant those crops as well. So if you like today's forecast, make sure you hit that like and share button so more folks are informed about the weather, as it's looking like it could be dealing with a pretty significant severe weather week. And if there's anything you want to see on this channel, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below the video. Any feedback helps provide you, the viewer, better and more informative content in the future. And last but not least, make sure you subscribe down below with bell notifications turned on so you never miss an upload. Here at Williams Weather, we try to make weather forecasting fun and informative. So I appreciate all y'all for watching, and until next time, never stop forecasting.